It is not an understatement to say that my diagnosis has changed my life.
Why an ADHD diagnosis matters for you. No one else. It's all about you, baby.
So the other day on a train, which is where I get most of my content writing inspiration, always in motion. ADHD motivation is always in motion. I started writing a bit of a rant in the notes app on my phone about why ADHD diagnosis is important. And then earlier, I was wandering around my house, trying to pull myself away from the TV, thinking, I need to do a video. What am I going to do? Video. It's my ADHD anniversary diagnosis on Sunday, and the stars are aligned, and here we are. There's so much noise out there in the press, online, about the rise in ADHD diagnosis and the pressure on services, and some articles about how that's not a good thing or like what that means, etc. There's a small ranty side of me here that wants to kind of go in on some of the narrative around it, but I also don't want to create a lot of space for that, because personally, one of the rules, if you will, that I have set for myself in the content that I do is that my people, my audience, the people that I support, that I work with, are you that are experiencing ADHD or in the process of diagnosis or just been diagnosed. I'm not here to convince other people that there should be space for us to exist or there should be space for us to be properly treated. So I toe this line where it's like, I have a lot to say about that, but me ranting to you about it isn't helpful, because it's not what you need, right? Like, you don't need to hear more of the shit. The example that I'm going to share with you today is like a very specific one, because I think it underpins and, what is this word? Best represents fundamentally the impact that diagnosis can have across so many different areas of your life. But I'm just going to give you one example today.
Story incoming.
Since I was a teenager, I experienced these seemingly random bouts of what I would call kind of like anxiety attacks. So I've never been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. I've never gone to the doctor about having anxiety because it never felt bad enough. And I didn't really understand what it was. I knew that it wasn't panic attacks, because from the way that people had described panic attacks to me, that's not what happened. What tended to happen is that I would feel this sense that like the walls were closing in around me, and I would start to hyperventilate. I would lose control of my breathing. My heart rate wouldn't rise. I knew that because I used to wear a Garmin, and I thought that's why I thought it wasn't a panic attack, because my heart rate stayed stable, which seemed strange to me. But it was hyperventilating, feeling like the walls closing in, finding it really difficult to process everything that was going on around me. And I struggled to piece together what it was that was leading me to react like that, right? So there were some common threads. It tended to be when there was something I was worrying about, there was something that was on my mind. But sometimes it happened in crowds, when I was out at like a gig, or there was busy, loads of stuff going on around me. But sometimes it would happen when I was just at home with my boyfriend. Equally, sometimes I could be in crowds with loads of stuff going on and it wouldn't bother me. So, as is often the way with the ADHD experience, there was this complete inconsistency as to where this anxiety came from. But the consequences of this happening is because I didn't understand why it was happening, I didn't know how to stop it. And I would get so worked up that then it would take sometimes a few hours really for me to properly like calm down, or it would just be a write-off of the night because I was like just super like hypersensitive and like freaked out after that. And then I would also end up reevaluating my whole life, because my assumption was that clearly I'm experiencing some stress and anxiety right now, even if I'm not conscious of it. Something funky is going on. Maybe my job's not right, what's going on in my relationship, how are my routines, I'm not managing my stress. And it all became this big thing of like, there must be something to be stressed about, so I need to fix that problem, but what is the problem? This is where the importance of an ADHD diagnosis comes in, and everything underneath that around understanding how my brain works, what my nervous system is like, right? What I now realise is that in all of those situations, I wasn't experiencing a panic attack or an anxiety attack due to life stress. I had hit my sensory limit. I can be in busy, overcrowded rooms, getting pushed around at a gig and be fine. But if that's happening and then there's an altercation and like something violent happens, or I'm really worried about something, the emotional overwhelm of that combined with every sensory thing that's going on kind of implodes. I can go to Reading Festival, as I did a few weeks ago, and be out for 12 hours and watch all of these different bands and be in crowds and have conversations and have to manage all of the different sensory stuff that's going on all around me, and I will be fine. But the next day, if I cry struggling to make a basic decision, it's because I'm oversaturated from the day before. And honestly, I cannot emphasize enough how relieving and how satisfying it is to understand that if I am in a situation where I'm struggling to process information, where I'm feeling a little bit like the walls are closing in, often for me, it's mostly noise related. Like I start feeling angry at the sound of other people's voices. Do you know how satisfying it is to now understand that enough to realize that the only thing I need to do is remove myself from the situation? And sometimes all I need is 10 minutes. 10 minutes on my own in a quiet space to come back out and be absolutely fine. Sometimes it's longer than that, right? It depends what's going on. But I can stop myself from going into this full-blown moment of anxiety and spiraling into a crisis of what it means for my life, because all I actually needed was a quiet moment on my own. And to me, right, this isn't about the labels of, oh, I have ADHD, or even for me, like, the people hearing that and understanding what it means, because let's face it, so many people don't, right? It's not about other people's understanding of me or acceptance of me. It is about me having a framework to understand how my brain works that makes things that once were so confusing and complicated so unbelievably easy to solve. Because when you understand something, you can manage it accordingly. You know what you need, or maybe what some of your limitations are in some situations, and so you just deal with it. And it's so much easier to accept that that's part of who you are when you're not fighting this complete unknown as to why it's happening the way it's happening. So for me, having that ADHD diagnosis, there's so many things that I would want to list, but the core of it goes beyond anything to do with even medication, right? Because a lot of people come to me through my medication video, there can be this perception that's like, oh, you got diagnosed and you've had medication and now it's solved all your life problems. No, it hasn't. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's not made a massive difference. It has. But that's not what's at the core of it for me. For me, it's been about just purely understanding why I'm experiencing things the way that I'm experiencing them, with this acknowledgement and appreciation that that's outside of my control, so that I can accept it. I can accept it, and that I can manage myself and celebrate myself and weather the storm of the struggles as well as the good parts, but fundamentally knowing why and knowing that that's how I am wired and that's okay. Understanding, acceptance for nobody else than for you.
Ho ho, the video ain't quite over yet. I wanted to tell you about some other ways that you can get helpful, insightful, and fun ADHD support in your work and your life. But as you can see, I messed up the recording of this fun little spin wheel thing I was doing. So I'm going to overlay this audio afterwards and we're going to make it work. Let's go! YouTube membership. I have recently started a YouTube membership called Pioneers. This is the first group of us. I want to build a community and figure it out with you together. There will be members only, community posts, behind the scenes, me sharing general thoughts, interacting in the comments, and I'll be also prioritizing your replies on my videos. Head to the link up above if you want to join. Substack. I have a newsletter for your eyes and also for your ears. There's an audio version where I share more tips for living and working with ADHD. If you want that in your inbox, head to the link and subscribe. Coaching. My bread and butter, the earth of my life. I don't think that's a phrase. The main thing that I do that I love so much is working with clients one-to-one to help them build careers and lives that they love with ADHD. If you're interested, go to the link in my description to find out more about how you can work with me. And finally, subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, I appreciate you. If you haven't, I'd love to have you as part of my channel subscribers. Hit the subscribe button. Also like the video. That's something you're supposed to say, right? Okay, bye. On with your life. Much appreciated. Kind regards.